Hello, and welcome to this tutorial, how to create a crowd of avatars with a Niagara System in Unreal Engine 5. At the end of this video, you'll be able to source your own characters, get some animation for them, bring it into Unreal Engine, get it all set up correctly, and have an Niagara System that will spawn characters at runtime to do the animation that you've chosen. Now, this is a really efficient method, way better than just pulling the meshes into your level, because that can really bog down your system. You'll see your FPS drop tremendously. But using an Niagara system, you can have far more characters and your system will just keep humming along. I'm assuming that you've got basic knowledge of Unreal Engine 5, that you are aware of what Niagara particles are, that you are a bit familiar with character animation, that there's characters with skeletons and that there's animation sequences that are applied to them to make them do the actions that you want. You don't need to know how to build any of these things because we're going to walk through it, but I'm not going to get into the basic concepts. So this is what we're going to be building. You're going to have some characters in the space. They'll be dancing because that's the animation that I've chosen to go with, but you could really have them doing whatever you want so long as you can find the animation for it. At the end of this video, we will explore how to push this idea, how you could have different characters, have them doing different things. We're going to use Ready Player Me characters because they're very efficient and easy to use, and then get some Mixamo animation. We'll bring it all into Unreal Engine and fix a small problem. Then we will learn about setting up the Niagara system, and then we'll talk about things we can do to push and diversify this idea and make it applicable in other instances. So let's get into it. First, you want to go to readyplayer.me and create a developer account. They've got clear instructions on their site, and then it will bring you to this. You will have your web avatar creator here. Load that up. You can see characters I've created in the past, and we will create a new avatar. This person is a pretty cool starting point. Let's give them a top. Cool. And the trousers, blue jeans. And let's change the shoes to, and click next. And here's the most important bit, the GLB. You want to copy that, open a new tab, paste it, and download. Great. Once that's done, let's load up Blender. You don't need to know how to use Blender. You just need to be able to follow a couple clicking steps. It's really not that complicated. So you can get Blender on Steam if you don't have it already. It is free. Just click anywhere here, hit A, then X. Don't move the mouse so this little window will disappear, and press delete. Now we're in good shape. Now File, Import, this bottom one, GLB. You want to go to where your GLB file downloaded, and here we are today at 435. Import. If you hit the period key in your number area, it will zoom in nice and close. Now there's just this little icosphere, which is a nuisance, so I like to delete that. And we are now ready to export this. You can click this little icon up here to confirm that the textures are there, but for some reason they don't make it through the rest of the process, but we will try. So export FBX. Now find a folder. I've created a video folder here, and this is from Blender, and we'll call this Dancer 4. Now we only need the armature and the mesh. Path mode should be copy, and hit this little button here, which will embed the textures, or supposed to embed the textures. I've not had much success with it, but I know that it will work out in the end. So export that FBX, and we are done with Blender. Now you want to load up Mixamo. This is part of the Adobe package, so I've got it as part of my membership. I'm not sure what the situation is going to be for you, but you may have to pay for this. But there it is, mixamo.com. So if you want to upload your character, drag your dancer in, it's going to upload, and it's going to update this image to show the actual guy that we've created and imported. And this is a really important step because it's fixing that skeleton, making it match, rigging it all up, and making it work with the animation. So there we go, the woman in the puffer jacket. Now let's search for some dances. Let's see what a rumba looks like. All right, she's doing that very well. Download. This is all fine. You don't want it as an FBX. Okay, and that is all we want to do in Mixamo. So if we had other characters that we wanted to try, we could now upload them, or really they're all using the same animation, so you could just change the animation and download the character. So we're done here, closing this. Now in Unreal Engine, I've just created a basic project when it's a gaming template and chose blank because we really don't need any bells and whistles to make this all work. And I've created a folder called Mixamo Animation and another folder called RPM. So here in Mixamo Animation, let's create a new folder, call this Dancer04, and go in there, right click, import. So let's find that folder then. Wherever you put this, I've kept my things organized here in a folder so I know that this is Dancer4 from Mixamo. And I want to open up that Rumba dancing. We've got a couple things to check here. Let's import static meshes, import skeletal mesh, import animations, and the materials and the textures, even though the materials and the textures will not be working properly. Right. So we can see here our skeleton, our physics asset, our skeletal mesh, and the animation sequence. So if I open up the animation sequence, we can see the animation is great, but the character looks all messed up. So what we're going to do now is in your RPM folder, let's create Dancer04, go in there, and let's import that GLB file again. So I'm going to Ready Player Me, Dancer4, import this. Let's check the settings. Import static meshes, import skull mesh, yeah, sure. Import animation, there's no animation, so I'll just turn that off. And then import textures. Great. Now let's import that. Now we can see here that our material instances look beautiful and the character looks correct. So we're going to apply these to the other skeletal mesh. So I'm going to Dancer4, opening up the skeletal mesh, and we can see here all of the material slots within the asset details of this character, and all the names are going to match up. So I'll just make this a bit smaller so we can see what's going on. And I'll click on the RPM folder, Dancer number 4. So we are looking at the exact same characters. So Wolf 3D body, Wolf 3D body. Just hit the button and it'll stick it in there. The eye goes to the eye. The hair goes into the hair slot. The bottom, outfit bottom goes there. Let's move this again to the side. Scroll down. The footwear is here. Footwear, outfit top, skin, the skin, and that leaves just the teeth. And now look at that. Our character looks fantastic. I'm going to save her and come in here and look at that. The animation has all the correct texturing and materials, which is exactly what we want. So it's an annoying little step that we have to do, but it was easy enough with just a little bit of clicking. But since we've now taken those materials from the other iteration that we've imported, I'm going to delete all these materials because we just don't need them. And then in Dancer4 here, I'm going to delete the skeleton, the physics asset, and the skeletal mesh because we don't need those. And we're just left with some materials and textures there. Great. So here is the character that we want to work with. And if I go into play mode, we can see that she's doing the dance, which is perfect. So now let's create a folder. I've already done it, called Niagara, and let's create a Niagara System. We've got all these starting points. We'll use the fountain instead of starting from scratch. Great. And now I've got to name it. So NS underscore crowd dancing. I'm going to call it O2. And let's open that up. So some of these things we're not going to need. The gravity force, don't want that. Don't want the drag. Don't want the scale color. Okay, particle state, this one, we want to turn off kill particles when lifetime has elapsed, and we want to loop the particles in their lifetime. That's fantastic. We don't want the velocity, so I'm going to delete that. The shape location, we don't need that. So let's add now in the emitter spawn, let's search for a grid. Spawn particles in grid. Perfect. So in the X count, let's have 5. In the Y count, let's have 5. In the Z count, I want 1. Because we don't want these dancers on top of each other. And in the particle spawn, let's add grid as well. Grid location. Now here, we are going to add some padding to space them out. So let's have 100 in the X, and 100 in the Y, and 0 in the Z. Now, where are the the particles? All right, we are showing 2 particles. And why is that? Well, in the initialized particle, let's have a lifetime min of 0.8 and a lifetime max of 1.2. So that'll make sure that when the dancers do their thing, that they'll all be slightly off time from each other, just so we don't have 2 that are perfectly in sync. And anything else to change here? Let's have a position offset, and let's add a random range vector, and from 0 to 100, 100, and nothing in the Y because we don't want them stacked up high. So look at that. Our grid is now doing its thing. That is quite a lot of particles, but that's fine. Let us start seeing what's going on. So we're going to turn off the sprite renderer, and let's add a component renderer. And this is really the magic here, because when we come to component type, we can choose skeletal mesh component, and in the mesh, we'll find our dancers. So this is Roomba dancing. That's her name. Great. Now they're not doing anything yet. Let's go into the animation, use animation asset, and in animation data, we can put in the Roomba dancing anim. And now we've got a whole bunch of dancing characters. The spacing isn't fantastic, and we'll fix that. I'm going to reduce the component count limit, so that'll tell it how many of these can appear in this one system. I'm going to say 5. So we've got a bit fewer there. And we want to add some padding, which is right here. Padding per cell. We'll add a bit more padding. Now by hitting Alt, Shift, and middle mouse button, I'm able to relocate this thing, and that is very helpful. Let's go back to the grid. No, let's go back to the grid location and change the dimensions, make it a bit bigger. All right, and in our initialized particles, position offset, this is kind of not offsetting enough. Let's offset these guys a bit more. Okay, that's working a bit better. And they're all facing the same direction, which isn't great. So let's add initial mesh orientation right there. And here we'll have a rotation, but again, a random range vector. We don't want them rotating up and down just the way they're facing. So we'll have a random rotation from -1 to 1, but it hasn't applied anything yet. So let's jump over to the skeletal mesh component renderer, scroll down to transform. And then in the relative rotation, let's set that to particles initial rotation. And sometimes this happens that it goes a little messy, but it shouldn't. So I'm just going to reinforce that these are zeros here. No, my bad. It's because I didn't set that to none. There we go. Now they're all facing their own little direction. Okay, let's compile this and save and see what it looks like in the level. So this is the skeletal mesh asset. Let's delete that. Let's drag in our component, hit play, and we've got 4 dancers. And they are like suspiciously perfectly in a line, which is not quite the way we had intended it. So I think if I come back in here and we look at the grid location, all right, so let's be careful about our padding per cell, because that gets pretty crazy pretty fast. So let's add in maybe 50 and 50. And where'd everybody go? All right. Got some nice distance between each other. I think we've got this looking in decent shape now. So close that up and hit play. And we've got a bunch of dancers. Nice. And if you wanted more dancers, just come in here, come back to the component renderer, and let's up this now to 20. And compile and save. And play. Now, that is perhaps too much Roomba for any one of us, but it's working just fine. And as it happens, we're lucky that nobody is crashing and overlapping. That's, oh, they're pretty close. I think they are actually overlapping. Yeah, that is a big nuisance to fix. So if we come back here and we look at our padding, let's just explore this bounding box per size. So if we create 100, what's going on here? Nowhere near big enough. Yeah, no, that's not working great. So let's put this back to padding per cell. But now 200 is way too big for this. So we've got some nice spacing happening here. Let's try 80 and 80. Okay, that's looking much, much better. Happy with that. Save. Let's play. Yeah, kind of enough space for everybody. Lovely. Look at that. So this is the basic setup. Of course, they don't have to be dancing. They can be protesters or whatever kind of animation you want. You can have all kinds of stuff happening. This is a very cool and efficient way if you just need some ambiance and you don't need any interactivity between your characters. You can create a Niagara system, put in some skeletal meshes, give them their animation, and you are off and running. So if we wanted to push this even further, what we could do is come into the Niagara system and add some other skeletal mesh component renderers. I can control copy and paste it, come in here, and I've got some other characters that I created doing the exact same steps that we did in the beginning of this film with creating RPM characters and Mixamo animation. And we've got a hip hop dancing person. And if I put in hip hop dancing animation as their animation sequence, we've now got these 2 people. Of course, they keep being put in the same spot. They're spawning in the same area, which is not what we want. So we're going to have to create in the particle spawn, we're going to have to set a new parameter. And the parameter that we want to set is called visibility tag. Great. So this visibility tag will be a random range integer between, let's say, 1 and 2. So anything that is at the time of creating a particle, it'll have a tag randomly assigned 1 or 2. And then in our renderer, if it is render visibility, if it's number 1, it'll appear. If it's 2, then that's what's going to appear. But they shouldn't be overlapped. The incident here should be just a coincidence. It should be showing just fine. What's great here is we can also limit the component count for each one. Maybe bring it right down to 5. Done. And now if we want to add another character, copy and paste it, come in here, give him a visibility tag of 3, and the mesh will go from hip hop dancing to the robot. Animation data, go to robot. So he's not appearing yet because we haven't updated our visibility tag to extend as far as the number 3. Now we've got 3 kinds of people. Let's compile and save this, close, play it in here. So we've got our original person. we've got this person with the glasses, and we've got this other guy right there. So we've got 3 kinds of dancer. And what's fantastic about getting everything from the same source, like Ready Player Me, and then using it through Mixamo, is that the animations are interchangeable. So in our crowd dancing here, I could now create another person. I'll copy and paste this one, and this will be visibility tag 4. And the animation, we're not going to do the robot. We're going to do some Roomba for this mesh. And the visibility tag now has to go all the way up to 4. And we compile and save. We will find that we have a character that does 2 kinds of dance. So this guy is doing that dance, and he's also doing the Roomba. Here we go. So if you're creating a crowd of people, maybe the lighting's not so bright like this, it's kind of a dance floor setup. You could have a whole bunch of people, make it look like there's even more of them because they're doing different dances, there's different kind of shapes moving around, and you can get quite a lot of bang for your buck. But it's a great technique, and I love it because it keeps the frame rate nice and low. If you really wanted to be strict, you could reduce the count of your skeletal mesh renderer, the component count limit, down to 1, and then each one will be a unique. So thank you so much for following this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments on improvement or whatever's on your mind. It would be great to hear from you. Thank you, and have a wonderful time creating in Unreal.